Hello, my name is Shequors and today I'll be presenting my Genius Hour project. The software I chose to do research on was Photoshop. I narrowed it down to the different types of art people make with Photoshop. But before I talk about that, I would like to let you know the background of Photoshop. Photoshop was created in 1988. The creators of Photoshop were John and Thomas Knoll. The brothers aimed to sell 100 copies of their software per month. Now that we fast forward into 2015, Photoshop now has 14 versions, including the first version in 1988. Photoshop has had a lot of adjustments since 1988. In the first version of Photoshop, you could only paint over photos. Now, you can crop, paint, add text, or anything you could think of. However, to get to where Photoshop was, they needed to ask people what they thought about Photoshop. This would help them get an idea of tools or adjustments they would need for the newer versions. Suddenly, they found that in Photoshop CS5, they have a lot of people buying Photoshop. Photoshop was becoming more popular as people were using it for things like company logos, YouTube banners, Twitter, and so on and so forth. However, these are not the most used types of art people used with Photoshop. The most used different types of art people use for Photoshop were things like RGB effect. This stands for red, green, and blue. It made a 3D effect. It's kind of like when you're watching a 3D TV without 3D glasses. The next is sculptures and better looking fonts. The program used for that is called Cinema 4D. You could create mini videos or GIFs. You could make a fish or like a house and then put it into Photoshop. They would then add the finishing touches when they have it in Photoshop to make it look better than it really is. Lastly, we have normal paintings. Professional artists love painting in Photoshop because the brushes they have are just amazing. They have splat brushes, normal brushes, or if you even wanted to, you can make your own brush. Photoshop has improved a lot since 1988, so much that they've started to sell over 100,000 copies per year. Photoshop is fairly expensive, and with their expense, they would make a lot of money per year. Well, my name is Shequors, and I'd like to thank you for listening to my Genius Hour project, and yeah.